Oh shit, I am ready to party now. Thank you, Brendan S. from Michigan. That made me really want to just fucking party my ass off. Go to the club or wherever the kids go nowadays, festivals, clubs, to listen to this electronic dance music, as it's called by its moniker, EDM, or acronym. Moniker, I guess, works as well, but I never really liked the phrase EDM, because like electronic dance music doesn't really, I mean, there's so many ways you can make music with electronic resources that could make somebody in turn want to dance. So I don't think it's a really specific enough label. But then again, what the fuck do I care? Anyway, give it up for Brendan S. from Michigan with the beautiful techno version of Wax's podcast jingle. The Wax's podcast jingle, rather. And as you may be able to tell by the fact that I haven't said on the road edition of Wax's podcast, or by the fact that I might sound like I'm sitting at my house in front of my little home studio computer, this is no longer the on-the-road edition of Wax's podcast. Matter of fact, that has been long gone. The on-the-road editions of Wax's podcast, let's be honest, inevitably they turned into the off-the-air editions of Wax's podcast because, as always, what happens when I'm on tour is I stop doing the podcast. And I'm sorry about that. I said I wasn't going to, but how many times, anybody out there that's actually been listening to this podcast for a long time, how many times have I fallen off like that? A lot of times. A lot of fucking times. I'm not the greatest. I would never say I'm the greatest podcaster of all time. I'm very far from it. I haven't even, for as long as I've been doing this podcast, I feel like episode 67, which is what it is today, is really not that high of a number. If I'd been doing one for every week, it'd probably be fucking double that. At least somewhere near to double that. At least be like 100. And I apologize. I'm not perfect. I will say that there have always been people out there that when I do a podcast or put a podcast out, they're like, yo, stop doing the podcast and do music. So I give myself that much credit. If my only thing was podcasting, I'd be like the worst podcaster of all time if that was my only thing. That being said, it's not like I've been putting out new music recently either. But I'm back. I'm back here in Venice, California. And my goal coming up is to do nothing but work on my next album. And I got some ideas. I got some halfway finished songs. I got a lot of good ideas, folks. So sometime soon I will have that ready. And that's pretty much all I got to say. I think I said give it up for Brendan S. from Michigan for making that beautiful rendition of the podcast jingle. I think I said that a few times. But it was necessary, man. It was necessary to make that edition of it. And, here I am. I guess the reason that I kind of discontinued the podcast on the tour is because I'm generally lazy. And also the Warped Tour, as I probably mentioned in like the last podcast that I actually put out, the Warped Tour makes you become a carnival worker, and it makes you feel like you're in an alternate universe. And as time goes by, the deeper and deeper you get into it, at least for me, not everybody's like this. Some people are actually responsible and care about their careers and try to get things accomplished. But for me, it just made me feel like I was in this alternate universe where it made it harder and harder to communicate with people in the, quote, outside world, unquote. And so as time went on, I called people that I knew outside the tour on the phone less and less. And one thing led to another, and I just stopped doing the podcast. And it's just hard to get back into once you haven't done it in a while. And I mean, even now, getting into it in general right now, like this is, as I've said before on this podcast, it's not like every time I do this, like, if the podcast is an hour, some days it takes me an hour to record it. When I'm in the groove, a lot of times that means I wake up in the morning and I'm just fresh and feeling good. Woke up on the right side of the bed, so to speak. I'll just roll out of bed, hit record, and I'll just kill it. Say all kinds of funny things will just roll off the tip of my tongue. And before I know it, I'll look at the screen and an hour's gone by, and I'll just be like, be safe out there. And and everything is done. But alas, I'm very not in the groove in general right now, not only with podcasting and sitting here and talking into a microphone, but in general in my life right now, I'm kind of, as happens when you like get back from a tour, you know, I still feel like I'm living out of a suitcase. I still really don't feel like I'm back at my house yet, even though I've been off the tour for a week and a half. I spent half of that in San Diego, and then I got back up here, and then I went to a wedding in Santa Barbara, and then I got back, and then I've only really been back in my house for like the last 2 or 3 days, and still getting back in the swing of things. Things aren't just coming off the top of my tongue like they sometimes do here on Wax's podcast. I don't even know what the fuck I'm going to say in the next 3 seconds. I guess what I said just now is what that was going to be. So, you know, that was all freestyle. If for those of you that think that I wake up when I do the podcast and write everything I say down, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. It works quite the opposite of that. I just kind of start rambling, and then for some reason, some people like to listen to it. And today is no different. What can I talk about? You know what's crazy? Oh, did you hear about Britney Spears? God, no, that's like a fucking dated reference anyway. I don't even know actually, you know what? I do actually know what celebrity right now would be interesting to talk about. As I said, I've been out of it for the last couple months. So while I was on the tour, I really didn't pay attention at all to the outside world. And that's like even my own personal outside world, like my business stuff, my emails, my podcast, my own personal stuff that's like first and foremost in my life, my family, my friends. I didn't even talk to those motherfuckers. And so you can imagine how out of it I was when it came to just general current events. And of course I get back to my house and I kind of start getting back into like checking Facebook and checking Twitter, and goddamn, right now in the world, there's a lot of crazy current events going on, man. We got civil unrest here, civil unrest there. You know, we got police going crazy here. We got the Islamic State people over in Iraq going crazy, cutting people's heads off. This whole shit is crazy, man. The world we're living in is fucked up. And, you know, of course, with the way our media is, no matter what you're looking at, it seems like they're trying to scare you. And I think it's because they are trying to scare you. Because the more scared you are, the more you'll click. You know, the more you'll read, the more you'll watch. And I feel like sometimes when I kind of like get retuned, like into current events, I kind of wish I just would have not even paid attention at all and just been living in my own little world. But that was all kind of a side step right there, because the other thing that's really kind of unimportant, but you wouldn't know that based on what was trending on Twitter, that the big thing today was Nicki Minaj's launch of her video for the song Anaconda. And goddamn, that was a really, really interesting watch. I will say, from just the perspective of like somebody who's made music videos and somebody who really enjoys like epic music videos. Like I don't even necessarily care about the song. Like if a music video is epic, a music video is epic. Like I was the biggest fan of the Gangnam Style video and just shit that's cool visually. I really like, and I can't deny that they did some cool visual shit. And as a man, I obviously can't deny that there was definitely a lot of good old fashioned T&A in the video, and a lot of sexual imagery, which of course is always fun to watch for a man. But you know, it's just crazy, man. Like she really takes everything to the next level, and there was just certain shit in there that blew me away, especially. And I know that hip hop always has crazy messages, but the thing that was craziest to me was in the song. She says, what did she say? She said, I let him hit it because he slangs cocaine. And I just thought that was crazy that she would say that. I know she's probably just talking shit or whatever, but she's, you know, I don't really have a point, but my point in general that I've made for a long time is all the people out there that say that movies, music, video games, when people, you know, kind of say that these things have an effect on the ills of society and contribute to people wanting to do bad things in society. People that say that those things don't affect it, I've always thought are absolutely fucking ridiculous. To say that rap music or violent movies or violent video games or heavy metal music or any of these things, to say that they don't affect the behavior of people in our society is absolutely ridiculous to me. I mean, I even know for a fact that when I was a kid, you know, like Cypress Hill was definitely like when I would first started smoking marijuana, you know, I'd put them on and it would feel awesome. It'd feel cool to do it. You know, they were doing it and they made it cool. And it definitely had an effect on my actions and my behaviors. And I just thought the combination of these two things was just really interesting to me. Nicki Minaj clearly in the video, I mean, clearly, and especially by the comments that I saw on various websites, dudes that watch the video want to have sex with Nicki Minaj. The most common thing that people were saying with the video is that it's a video that you would masturbate to. And, you know, I have no problem with that. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I had a problem with that. My biggest video I've ever done for the song Rosanna is no different. You know, all the comments are people talking about how it's porn and they fap to it and things like that. But I just thought the combination of people wanting to fuck Nicki Minaj and then her saying in the song, I let him hit it because he slangs cocaine. I mean, if you're an impressionable young youth out there, you know, you're thinking, damn, I better start slinging cocaine so this type of chick like this that I want to have sex with will have sex with me. And, you know, I don't know if it's that direct and it's that directly causal, but I don't know. I just found it interesting. I wish that I had phone lines because I'd be like, what do you guys think? Call fucking 456. But I don't, because this is a podcast. I should have a guest that could answer and see what they think. What do they think of that? But okay, so that was one thing that I saw today on my social media. I saw recently, this was yesterday. Like I said, I'm sorry if I'm late on some of these things because I kind of am catching up on current events. And I'm doing it on accident, man, because I just kind of spend a lot of time relaxing. And sometimes since I live by myself, relaxing just kind of means bullshitting on the internet. Like just watching YouTube videos, watching interviews, and, you know, with the way that Facebook is now, like if you fuck around on your Facebook homepage wall or whatever that they call that part of Facebook now, just home. It's you know, you don't really even find out much about what your friends are doing like it used to be kind of the purpose of Facebook. You just find out about what these mini viral things are, and if there's a big event going on such as civil unrest in the United States and Middle East, or Nicki Minaj having a video, or all these fucking people dumping buckets of water on themselves, you know, you're going to see it on your Facebook wall. So I kind of got lost in a lot of this stuff over the last couple of days. And you know, a lot of it's interesting. The stuff happened in Missouri is really interesting. The stuff happened in Iraq is crazy. This ice bucket challenge shit, which is probably even dated by the time that I'm saying this, but I still see people posting up new ones. And that's crazy to me because it's like so viral that the people that I see posting up new ones on my Facebook are all people that I like know from high school and shit. And they're still doing that. And, you know, whoever invented that, you know, props to them, because I know that society is that, you know, that society for that disease has made a lot of money. I think it's Lou Gehrig's disease. I probably did that wrong. I know it's ALS, but it's I probably fucked that up. But you know what? I'm not really mad that I fucked it up. Like, I don't know everything about diseases. I honestly don't. And, you know, this was an effective campaign to raise awareness, but I think it became a little bit over the top. And as I pointed out on my Facebook, I think the most ridiculous thing about it, especially since it's so public and everybody around the world can see it, it's I mean, if you added up all the ice water that was wasted in this challenge, I mean, you could probably save a very significant amount of thirsty people, and wherever, you know, some of these countries where there's big water shortages. I mean, fuck other countries. There's a water shortage in California. You know, I saw an article where they made the ice bucket challenge legal here because of the drought in California. It's very hard to notice when you're in a first world country when there's a drought because, you know, I mean, I could, if I wanted to right now, I could go turn on my shower, my kitchen sink, my bathroom sink, and just let the shit run for a week, you know? So how am I supposed to know there's a drought? But there is, apparently, you know? So I thought this kind of ice water bucket challenge was a little ridiculous in that regard. But, you know, if there's a positive and they're raising money for a cause, and they're actually, you know, then you got to really think, like, what are they doing with the money? You know, who's getting this money? How they need to, you know, I just don't understand. Like, I mean, I get it to a certain extent. You know, there's only so much science can do. There's only so much smart human beings are. But all these years and years of raising money to cure AIDS and to cure cancer and to cure all these various diseases, how the fuck have we not cured them yet? You know, all this money and all this science put into this, and we haven't cured them yet. You know, we can fly planes. You know, maybe they need to get some of the dudes who are building these apps and fucking building the next iPhones to kind of collaborate with these dudes that are in the science industry, which is probably, you know, some of the information I've seen, there's such close ties to these foundations and drug companies that, you know, some people say this is a joke, like, hey, there ain't no money in the cure, the money's in the medicine. You know, I think Chris Rock was the one who kind of popularized that, but like, that shit is absolutely true, you know? A lot of these companies, they don't want the money for the purpose of doing research that will cure the disease. They do the research so they can find new drugs that will kind of just keep the disease going and make you have to buy the drug continuously. I'm really just kind of going off in all different directions today, huh? But some of you out there are like, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and some of you out there are like, man, he's just rambling and he has really no knowledge about anything that he's discussing. And you're both right. You're both right, because there's elements of truth in my blabber, and there's also elements of complete ignorance. And so that was, what the fuck was I talking about? How did I get into, because I was talking about the ice water bucket challenge. But yeah, it just seems ridiculous that we have to waste all that water. You know, maybe they could just change it to like, maybe just get one ice cube and you have to have somebody rub it on your face for an extremely long period of time. That way you're only wasting one ice cube, not like 50 ice cubes and 5 gallons of water, or more or less considering how much you dump on yourself. Some people use a whole cooler. Some people use like a tiny ass bucket, a la the ice buckets at hotels. But I will say, in the defense of that, and just in the defense of the internet in general, there was a really, really good compilation of fail videos from the ice bucket challenge, where people don't really understand that a 5-gallon bucket full of water is not something that you can easily dump over onto somebody's fucking head by reaching that entire full bucket of water over your own head or over somebody else's head. Like, junk is pretty heavy, man. And yeah, you know, there was a really good, I'm sure if you just look up fail ASL ice bucket, whatever they call it, challenge, I'm sure you could find some good shit. And I was going to say something. Oh yeah, man, I saw this other thing. I saw some little Vice documentaries about the Islamic State, man. Those dudes are crazy. The Islamic State, of course, is the group of people that took over certain areas of Syria, and really most of Syria, and now they're taking over certain areas of northern Iraq. Iraq in general not being very stable because they've been at war for a long time. The main guy that kept them stabilized was Saddam Hussein, and of course he's no longer there. So there's all these different groups. They got Christians, they got different type of Muslims, they got the Kurds, they got all these cats over there, you know? And the craziest motherfuckers over there, at least in my opinion from what I've seen, are the Islamic State dudes, and they're really taking it to that classic, the stereotypical version that you remember when 9/11 happened, and especially the conservative Christian people in America, but really there was a general fear in America of this idealism of, you know, the fundamentalist Islamic terrorist idealism of just basically kill everybody. Some of these dudes really have that shit. You know, the Vice documentary, say what you will about how douchey some of their stuff is, But like, I mean, they're over there with these dudes. They're over there with the leaders, and the leaders are talking about their opinions, and they're giving their opinions, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And, you know, they already they have a considerable amount of power. They have a lot of weapons, a lot of the weapons that really were weapons that we bought for certain other armies that they took, you know. That's what some people don't understand. Like, if you put a weapon in this world, you know, it's not like, and then you give it to somebody, or if, you know, even if the U.S., you know, something happened to the U.S. and we got overtaken, like, these weapons don't go away. Somebody now owns these weapons, you know. So if you put a bunch of weapons in Iraq for the Iraq army, and then the Iraq army gets beat by Islamic State, now Islamic State's got a bunch of badass American built, or I don't even know, are those even American built? Does it do like our Humvees and shit, and whatever those even bigger than Humvee things are those contracted out to somewhere else in the world too? I don't really know. I think most of that stuff's built here. But, you know, these cats got mad weapons. You know, it seems like the thing that they probably lack is the ability to do stuff from the air. Like, I don't think they have many like badass planes and shit like that. And so, like, if we go, like, of course we go over there and do airstrikes, and it really fucks them up, and that's why they're mad, and that's why they beheaded the dude, and that's really sad to see stuff like that happen. So I don't really know where else to go with that. I know that you wouldn't fucking catch me being a vice journalist in the middle of Raqqa, Syria, that's controlled by the Islamic State. Look up Islamic State Part 3. That was the most interesting one to me. And they're riding around with these dudes called the Hizbah. And the Hizbah in Raqqa, Syria is like, I think that it's like the main headquarters of the Islamic State, where they run that city. Like, they're the police of that city as well as the government, as well as the legal system, the judicial system, all that shit. And they ride around with the police, and the police are just basically going around enforcing what they believe to be the right thing to do. And it's just really interesting that, like, they're just looking for like little shit, like the smallest of things, like what kind of posters people had hanging up, what kind of things that the women were wearing, how much they're selling different types of meat for. And, like, you know, the smallest infraction, and you're in jail and you get whipped. You know, if you drink alcohol or do drugs, a lot of people get killed, you know. And if you do something bad and you get killed, you know, that they were showing, like, they'll put your crucified body out in the street, so everybody knows, like, yo, you shouldn't be doing this shit. And you know, in their minds, a lot of the things they do are backed by Islamic law, which is laid down in the old Quran. And you know, you can say all you want about the Quran. I admit before saying the following thing that I haven't read the Quran, but if you practice all the shit that was in the Bible, there'd be some fucked up stonings going on every day too. So I don't know. What am I even talking about today? I feel like I've talked about a million things, and I haven't really said shit. What else we got? We got the Ferguson, Missouri. That shit is crazy. Speaking of tanks and all that shit, the cops got those over there. I've been reading up on how all these small towns, it goes with what I was saying. Like, you know, when they come back from Iraq or they come back from Afghanistan, the military comes back. You know, some of these weapons, not really weapons. Don't think of it as weapons. Think of like vehicles, like armored vehicles. They have so many and they build so many more that, you know, some of these vehicles are just sitting in a field somewhere, and, you know, the government makes deals, so they just give these things or sell these things to local police departments. And some of these local police departments in really small towns have tanks. And if you do some research on it, it's crazy. Like, some of these dudes have like little like heavy metal like videos on their police website where they're like, yo, we got a tank now, and they like have like a heavy metal music background. They're riding the tank all through the town like there were some badasses. And there's definitely some truth to, like, you know, if you give these dudes some toys, like they can't wait for the opportunity to use these toys. So it definitely looks pretty crazy over there. And I think that a lot of the reason that shit is escalating, besides the fact that there's just racial tension going on, and I'm not going to comment on the actual crime that happened, as far as like the police officer and the dude, or like what happened, like what did he do to the police officer, because I don't like to comment on things before I know all the information. And I can already see that there's so many people telling different stories that I'm not going to comment on what happened between Michael Brown and the police officer, because I have no idea. Because, you know, if you listen to one person, it was totally fucked up by the police officer. If you listen to another person, you know, sometimes if you fuck around, you know what I mean? You know, you might fuck around and get shot. That the police officers have guns. Like, sometimes they shoot people, man. And I always tell people, I know that probably sounds really mean on my part, but if I was a police officer, I would be so fucking scared of everybody that I pulled over. I'd probably shoot like 10 people the first day. I would be so fucking scared. Like, think about how scary it is to, like, every day, just a bunch of people you don't know. You gotta pull them over, and then they roll their window down, and you don't even know who it is. You know, like, to me, that's crazy. And you know, undoubtedly, it probably was not something that should have evolved in it should have ended in somebody's death. I think that these dudes need to be carrying tasers more often. A. B, whatever happened to shooting people in the leg? That should, in my opinion, that should be like a big protocol amongst police. Like, be shooting motherfuckers, and especially if you're gonna shoot 6 times, just like knee, thigh, shin. You know, that's what I feel like people should be trained to do, is take out people's legs. And but regardless, I don't know what happened. If he was running away, that there's absolutely no excuse for that. But I mean, you got to think about it, man. If somebody's grabbing, if what the one dude said was true, and he actually grabbed the officer's gun while the gun was on him, and the gun went off, like, I mean, dude, that's you know, if you're doing shit like that, you know, I'm not saying anybody deserves death, but, like, you know, you can't be doing shit like that, you know. And but I will say that in the wake of what was happening, I think that there's always going to be people out there that, like, take advantage of situations and rob stores and shit like that. I mean, people, you know, broke people are going to do shit like that no matter what happens. But I think that it was really more the police's fault for bringing all this tanks and riot gear and turning it into a riot by making it look like it was a riot. You know what I mean? So it became a riot because they made it look like one. And the thing that annoys me most about the entire situation, this is the thing that annoys me the most about the entire Ferguson situation, especially if you look on just the comments on Yahoo or whatever, the comments on wherever you're looking at dumb places, the people always make out people. I talked about that. My brother was tweeting about this, and I talked to my brother about it, and we've talked about this before and so many other times. Like, I'm really starting to hate the use of the word thug, because the word thug is just used by people who really in their own time probably say the N-word. I'm talking about white people here. In their own time, they probably say the N-word. But when they're online, they think that if they just say thug instead, then it doesn't sound as bad, because people don't realize. But to me, like, that's become this weird replacement. And they use words like that to dehumanize, like, everybody in black communities, as if everybody there, well, it's just like, that just was one less thug on the streets. And it's like, dude, like, you're just assuming that everybody in the neighborhood, and granted, this particular dude, whatever, but people will word it like everybody in that neighborhood is somehow less than human, and it's not a big deal when they get shot. And that's obviously something that's been going on in our country forever. But it just gets on my nerves, because if the same thing, like my brother mentioned, like, we used to shoplift and shit like that. We used to I don't think I ever pushed the 7-Eleven clerk like they say he did on that video or whatever, but you know, I definitely yelled obscenities and acted like a dick, and I definitely know people that have tussled with workers, and even my brother was arrested for assaulting a cop one time. He pushed a cop. Damn, I didn't even think about that. My brother straight up pushed a cop one time. He was getting arrested for an alcohol citation when he was like 17. And he told the cop to get the fuck off of him and pushed him, you know? And if that would have evolved into something like this, you know, I don't know that people would be calling him a thug. They probably would have been just like, oh, he's just a drunk teen. He didn't know what he was doing. He was drunk, and he was little teenagers having fun, you know, like, and I see stuff like that going down, and that's just the way, you know, that shit works out. Just a lot of racially motivated speech in our country. And I think it's pretty fucked up. All that being said, you know, I don't know what happened between those two dudes. I don't know what happened between the cop and the dude. Like, if he was really fucking the dude up and trying to grab his gun straight up, like, I don't care what anybody says, man. You can't be doing shit like that. Cops have guns. Like you can't grab, you can't grab the gun and try to take it from them, you know? But like I said, if other witnesses are correct, even if he did that and then he's running away and put his hands up and then you're shooting him, I mean, that's straight up murder right there. So the reason I don't like how the media will come to conclusions before the evidence is there. So I think that's kind of what's a fucked up thing about our country right now, and it's been like this ever since 24-hour cable news, is that the media will make people out to be something, you know? And if that doesn't come out to be true, you know, the media is not the judicial system, so they don't have to apologize and they don't have to like be like, oh, sorry, we gave, you know, whether it's anything, you know, it can be, whether it's fucking O.J. Simpson, you know, I don't know if he did it or not. I'm sure it's, you know, it seems like he did, but you know, I don't think that even in his case, I don't think the media has a right to fucking make it seem like he did and make claims that he did. I mean, they can report. I just feel like people should report facts. You know what I mean? Facts should be reported. And even eyewitness accounts should not be reported as facts. You know what I mean? Especially if there's two different eyewitnesses saying two different things. And with the way that our country is, and with the way that every news outlet has a way that they have to spin everything. You know, like you already know what story Fox News is going to believe and report. You know what I mean? They're gonna report the one that goes along with their narrative, which is going to be the one that's anti-black, anti-liberal, pro-gun. You know, that's how it's going to be. So I don't know. I'm rambling about just like all these things that I saw today on my social media thing. When I said that, I mean my computer. Oh man, I think that. I don't know, man. I don't know about our times. I don't know about these times we live in, dog. It's times where we're just always connected. Like, I feel like I need to disconnect more, you know? I definitely need to disconnect more. I think I need to get out of my house and go talk to people more. Granted, this summer I was so happy, and I think that had to do with the fact that I was always around people, and I did disconnect. Like I said, I got back connected, and now it's everything's scary, and everything's like, you know, it only in a certain way even directly affects me, all this shit, you know? Like maybe I should be happy that, you know, I have a life where I don't have to think too much about Iraq, you know? Like, that's why I said you never see me join fucking the military. You never see me go over there with a camera and be like, "Oh, I'm the press. Can I follow around with you while you behead people?" Like, you would never see me do that, man. Like, I'm trying to make my one life that I had to live. There's only fucking one time you get to live, and people say like, "I'd die for this. I'd die for that." There is not one fucking thing. No, there's one thing. Like, family, loved ones. If motherfuckers start attacking Venice and they're knocking on my door, I have no choice but defend myself. If I got a wife and somebody's fucking with her, I got, you know, brother, mom, dad, whatever, my family, they're worth dying for. But there is like countries, dude. Like, I don't understand. I don't think that people really realize, like, it's all fucking made up. Flags are some shit that we made up. There weren't, like, the American flag didn't even exist 600 years ago, or however many. It was 1700 something. Yeah, so even 500 years ago, you know. I don't know when the fucking American flag was invented, but I think there was officially like 1776 or something that the United States officially began. I don't even know if that's true, man. I think it might have been earlier than that. We had settlements earlier than that, but I don't remember when the official the Constitution was signed and all that kind of shit. I do not remember, but anyway, that's all pointless, because there's only certain things in this world that we didn't just fucking make up. You know, these ideals of a country like, you know, and borders. There's the borders, and like, you can't get over this border. This border is my country. It stands for this and all. Like, that's all shit we made up. Like, I wouldn't die for any of that shit. None of that shit I would die for. I was born where I was born, and I like to do what I like to do, and I'm gonna try my best to do things that I enjoy and to live a life, you know, to live my life. Like, and the older I get, the more like, I don't want to be around violence. You know what I mean? I have no idea. I have no interest whatsoever in going near to violence. You know what I mean? I don't. I want to be away from that kind of shit. You know. And that's just part of who I am. I don't even like watching UFC and shit like that. I just don't enjoy violence. I don't like watching fight videos online. I very much do not like watching weird like Mexican cartel beheading videos that T-Rex likes to fucking watch all the time. I definitely don't like watching shit like that. And I don't know, man. I just don't think things are worth dying for the way that other people do. And I realize that there's certain, in a lot of ways, that's because I'm privileged. You know what I mean? I haven't seen my family suffer the way that other people have, you know, and I realize that, but I was born the way I was born. You know, I was adopted by a family that grew up in a safe area. I was able to, you know, I'm not saying that I didn't have struggles. I failed mad times. I was broke mad times. I had fucking relationships going bad. I was depressed. I've been depressed mad times. Struggle with drinking alcohol and addiction. But all in all, like, when it comes to violent shit, you know, when it comes to like wanting to fight or wanting to go over to another country and shoot somebody, I don't fucking know. Like, no offense if that's what you do. I have all the respect for people that do that, because I don't think people always realize what they're getting into fully when they do that. And I think some people like to go to the military for the structure and everything like that. But like, for myself personally, like, I just ain't dying for none of this shit, man. Just not doing it. I'm not putting myself in, I'm trying to not put myself in the position to die for some bullshit as much as I possibly can. That being said, I be driving around in cars and planes and all the shit where you know, I mean, I guess maybe it's better to die for something than to fucking die in some pointless shit, you know? I've done a lot of fucking risky shit. I've jumped out of a fucking plane before I went skydiving that one time. That'd be kind of more honorable to die for your country than to die because you're a fucking idiot, right? Jumping out of a plane. But you know, what if maybe you could do, what if you did both? What if you died in a skydiving accident while skydiving into to kill Hitler yourself personally with a knife during World War II? What does that make you? But the skydiving accident was your fault because you like didn't tie your shoelace properly or something like that. Just a fucking honorable dummy, you know, that made this like that tragic mistake, you know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I hope I didn't offend too many people today. I'm sure I did, especially you guys in the military. I have absolutely nothing but respect for people that do it. But I'm just completely talking about myself. I mean, same thing with the UFC and shit. I have nothing but respect for people who I see the art in that shit. I see the art in fucking somebody up. I wish that I had the ability to do it, because I get angry sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Wish that I would have taken karate, you know what I'm saying? Learned some jujitsu, all that shit. But I don't know, man. I'm just like I'm a non-violent type of dude. I'm just not into violence. Never have been. I'm not into confrontation. Definitely to a fault sometimes. Definitely to a fault. I used to have a girlfriend back in the day that was a real confrontative. Is that a word? If it's not a word, you know what the fuck I meant. She was always getting into confrontations. And, you know, sometimes she'd be at a bar and she'd end up somehow getting in a confrontation with a girl or a guy. But a lot of times it was she getting in a confrontation with a girl, and then that girl's got a boyfriend, and, you know, I'm her boyfriend. So now I got to step into the situation. And in some of those situations, it probably would have been better for me to be more of like a step the fuck up to the plate dude than like, yo, can we just squash this? Kind of like, this is stupid kind of dude. And but you never know. Maybe one of those motherfuckers would have shot me. So you never know. I don't know what I'm talking about, so let's get into some comments and questions, comments, recommendations, shout-outs, and all that good shit. All right. Let's see. We got... all right. I didn't completely catch up on the emails, but I did get a lot of them today. I got through a pretty good amount of them. Oh, excuse me. Shout-outs to A-Def. I got an email from J-Def, who is A-Def's brother, and I haven't seen you in a long time, A-Def. J-Def says that you listen to the podcast, so I hope everything is going well with you. Brian the Trainer, Mary B the OG, Harry S the skateboarder from NYC, Cool Hand Luke, Geoff, Mara the Human from the UK, Kareem aka Miracle, Marco from Canada. I gotta listen to Marco from Canada's music. Sorry, I haven't checked out that music you sent me yet, Marco, but I will. Reed T in Toronto, Mike W from Canada. A lot of Canadas today. Baby Nate from Ohio. Happy belated birthday to you, Baby Nate. Will from St. Louis, David M from Toronto, and Diamond Beats. And yet again, special shout out to Brendan S from Michigan, who made that fucking EDM dance techno-ish intro to the podcast. Got a couple recommendations here. Yo, Mike, it's been a while. I haven't had time to listen to the podcast lately, unfortunately. I got a new job, work 48 hours plus a week plus summer classes, so I've been swamped. Anyways, I found out about a sweet website that I thought you may enjoy considering your love for documentaries. It's called documentaryheaven.com. Literally hundreds of streaming documentaries, all arranged by topic, all free. I thought you may also want to mention it on a future podcast since other listeners also seem to like them. That was by Big D. And let me tell you something, Big D. Big D. I think we talked about that. You emailed me before. I thought that was a funny name. And I checked out the website, and I do, much like Big D does, recommend documentaryheaven.com. That shit is tight. If you're like me and you love documentaries, and you watch documentaries way, way more than you watch actual movies, check out documentaryheaven.com. All right, this is from Nate. Nate the Plate. Nate the Plate from Michigan recommends Mac DeMarco and what was the other one? And Vacationer. He said one of the groups you'd want to listen to at the beach while on mushrooms. The other group you'd want to listen to while at the beach on acid. I'll let you and hopefully the podcast listeners decide betwixt the two on that one. Thank you and have a good ass time on the Warped Tour. Actually, you can see this was an older email. But I haven't really checked those dudes out yet. I've heard a song by Mac DeMarco that I actually really, really liked. So I'm gonna check out both of those bands. If they sound like what you described them, that's my kind of shit. Chris M, my homie Chris M, waxfans.com, recommends Cosmos, a space-time odyssey, which is of course the remake of the old Carl Sagan Cosmos, with the infamous Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is smart as shit. And I couldn't agree more with Chris M that Cosmos shit is awesome. And a lot of my friends agree too. And last with the recommendations, Brandon from Connecticut recommends a song called Heat Wave. And he recommends that song because I was talking about the artist K-Flay, who is amazing, who I actually just saw live here in LA 2 nights ago. And it was awesome because she was on the Warped Tour. She was on the same stage as me. I saw her set all the time. Met like probably 30 times this summer, but on that one she did some songs I hadn't heard. But the song that Brandon from Connecticut recommends is a song called Heat Wave, and it is by drum and bass artist Wilkinson, and it features K-Flay. And I listened to that song, and it was actually kind of cool because, you know, people always say like, yeah, you heard this rapper K-Flay? And I'd be like, yeah, I've heard of her, but I've seen her perform, and she doesn't really rap like that. She's like, it's more of a singer-songwriter kind of thing to me. But in this one, she was kind of actually like spitting. I was like, all right. And it was good. It was good. It was good is what I'm saying. It was good is what I am saying. So thank you for that. Let's get into some letters. I just want to read this one. I know that I remember talking shit about the state of Florida a while back because Florida's so fucking weird and all the weird shit happens there. But I'm going to read this. This is Mad Myers. I've read many of his letters before, but he's from Florida, and he just randomly wrote me this. Mad Myers' unofficial guide to surviving Florida. Welcome to Florida. We don't know why you're here. Maybe you're retiring or trying to escape state tax laws. Either way, we don't care because it's hot as fuck, and no matter what you do, it's just going to be hot, so it's easier to just not give a fuck. While you're here, just assume everyone is trying to sell you shitty weed or talk to you about Jesus. Most people are not ashamed of their racism, so be prepared to be in an uncomfortable situation and conversation. Thieves are everywhere and will steal everything that isn't locked up. Mean mugging is the natural look on our face because we are very territorial of Florida. Florida's heat will cause you to go crazy, which is why crazy shit happens here all the time. Recently, George Zimmerman, Casey Anthony, bath salt zombie guy, dude who shot kid for loud music, and anytime you watch a show with dumb criminals of people, 75% of the clips are from Florida. That's absolutely true. Absolutely fucking true. So basically the best thing to do is to stay inside and lock your doors or be prepared for shit to go down. Shit. I've had a crazy guy who wasn't taking his pills break into my house and tried to kill my mom and brother. I've been hassled for money by crackheads since I was 10. It wasn't uncommon to walk to the bus stop and see caution tape wrapped around an apartment because someone got shot. All my friends have been sticked up on more than one occasion. Shit is real. Anyways, enjoy your stay. Mad Myers. And I wanted to read that because we did 3 shows in Florida on the Warped Tour, and I think those shows were after I'd already become the off-the-air edition of the Waxes podcast. Let me tell you something, man. It's so fucking hot and miserable down there, weather-wise, that I would never fucking live there. Never. I don't like, dude. When we did the show in St. Petersburg, it was awesome in the morning because like that was actually the most beautiful venue we played at by a long shot. It was right on the water, right by some, a bunch of shit in the town. We got there real early, and there was just like a beautiful like sunrise and shit. But once that day got started, it started raining here and there, really hard for a second, muddy, and just miserable muggy heat. Like it was fucking miserable. Like I was just like the whole time I was just like, how the fuck do you live here? To everybody who was there, and probably being a big ass dickhead, but they're just used to it. And I think he's right, man. That's why he said that the heat makes you crazy, and he said it several times. I think it's probably correct. It makes you just not give a fuck. It's like, whatever, I live here and it's hot all the time and it's terrible, so I might as well just do terrible things, But everybody out there that lives there or that lives in certain parts of Texas that are also miserable in the way that is, always remember you have options. Like I said earlier, you only have one life. You have options in life. You can move. You can move. You can get in a vehicle and go to a different place and live there if you want to. All right. This is from Johnny from Norway. Oh, yeah. Hey, Wax, I'm a huge fan of your music and blah, 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 blah. Thanks. I recently got a job as a summer intern at a construction company, and the days are long, and I spend a good amount of time alone throughout the day. So I decided to download some of your podcasts, starting from number 1 and just going through all that shit while I'm at work. Work is mad boring, but listening to your rambling actually makes time pass. Thanks for that. Well, I appreciate that, Johnny. Anyways, I got a question for you. Do you have any awkward stories you can share on the podcast? Just like some awkward shit that happened to you on tour or on a date or whatever. I'm a big fan of awkward stories, so I decided to share one myself. Maybe it will be suitable for one of your podcasts. So I was meeting up with 2 bitches who I barely knew at the time to go see a local amateur soccer game. When I see them in the distance, we wave and all that shit to each other, so I got the brilliant idea to try to be funny. Not a good idea, exactly. Me being funny was doing a stupid dance, and while I'm dancing, I of course slip. In dog shit. Long story short, I got dog shit all over my favorite jacket and just had to leave the 2 girls I barely knew to watch the game without me, after an extremely awkward moment. Never talked to those girls again, and the bus ride home was pretty interesting. That's all I'll say about that episode. Johnny from Norway. P.S. I think I might have one of those completely pointless jobs that you were talking about in your earlier episodes. I literally stand and cut down bushes with a big-ass scissor all day. English second language. Don't even know why. Probably because the bushes will grow. They grow, and you got to trim them, dog. There's a point there. I mean, but if you feel that way, if you feel that it's pointless, I'd recommend getting something else. So I just thought that was a pretty funny story. I can picture it. If you picture it visually, it's funny. Just like him being all Norwegian at a soccer game, just trying to do a funny Norwegian soccer dance. And then he just falls into a pile of dog shit. I don't know why the dog shit was there at the amateur soccer game. I guess a dog shit where you were at. And then, he just never talked to them again. I do have awkward stories like that probably, but unfortunately I didn't think of one before. I did have an awkward thing happen to me. It was at the same weird shit happens in Florida. At that same show I was talking about, I don't know if this girl listens to this podcast, so I'm going to keep it real. I had a girl that I kind of became not friends with at that show, but at the end of the night, long story short, I was at a bar and we were just kind of talking, and I was just thinking for a while, especially because she had this friend with her that was the worst friend, and all my friends who I was on tour with were out because we rarely got a chance to do things that weren't like most of the venues on the Warped Tour, you have to understand, are in the middle of nowhere. There's not even a store, there's not a restaurant for miles and miles, and nobody has a car. So you're either on the bus in the venue or at the catering, which is the same. I mean, it sounds all nice, catering, like catered, but like it's the same shit every meal. And you're generally like, if there's a chance to go out and get something to eat, which there rarely was, you do it. And in this case, the St. Petersburg show actually had tons of shit around it. It was like in a metropolitan area. And everybody that I was with was at a sushi place. And I love sushi. But I was with this chick and her whack friend. And I just got really frustrated after a while. And out of nowhere, I stood up and I looked at her face. I was like, look, I know this is kind of fucked up, but I'm leaving right now. And you guys aren't coming with me. I'm going to go. And that's it. I'm out. Peace. I just said that, and they looked at me like I was the biggest asshole because it was an asshole move. But I developed a real camaraderie with my friends while I was there, and I just wanted to be with them and eat with them and have a good time with them while we actually had the opportunity to like go out and do other shit. And if you're the girl listening, you know who you are, and I'm really sorry. It was not you. It was your friend who was the worst. And I don't know what to tell you. Julian S. This is a new letter. New letter from Julian S. Hey, Wax, it's the high school sophomore again. God damn, that's ridiculously young. But you're probably at the Warped Tour this year. So at the start of school, my mom had just busted me for the second time for weed. The first time she almost disenrolled me from school. So needless to say, when school started, I was a real anti-weed type guy. But as time went on, I ended up smoking with a friend of mine and started to change and relax my opinion on it. So during last week, I was high all days but Monday. I really like weed and I'm 16. My mom even thought, well, I'd really liked weed at 16 too. My mom, even though she understands the science of the bud, she's a nurse, she would send me to military school if she knew I had so much as glanced at a bud. I was just curious to see your opinion or experience on the topic. P.S. After I started that week of getting high, my women game had improved, and this one girl who friend-zoned me sent me a hella thirsty text, and she's really hot too. It just seems like after I started smoking, quote, the reefer, unquote, my life has been on the upswing. Man, this is a really tricky one to talk about. P.P.S. Please make a weed song like a song explicitly about marijuana. I'd smoke that song as often as possible. I do have a song that's mostly about marijuana. It's called Roll It Up. Do I have any other songs that are about... I have Dispensary Girl. It's not strictly about... It's kind of a story that revolves around... marijuana. I have a lot of times where I casually mention it, but I don't have like straight up like songs called like smoking up the reefer, roll it up, the Roll It Up is the closest one I have. There's a song on my mixtape called Scrub Life called Roll It Up. It's at this point the closest thing I can think of to a straight ahead weed song. Unless I'm tripping and I can't think of them. But listen, man. First of all, the getting high and your women game improving, those things might not be correlated, man. Those things could be just two things that happened at the same time. They could just be total coincidence. But that being said, if you and this girl got high together, maybe that's a way that you bonded and you clicked. I mean, that's let's be honest here. Like one of the beautiful thing about weed is that weed can bring people together of all different walks of life, all different genders. Like there's more than two. I mean, there's in between types of things, but it's not like there's another gender besides man and woman. But it's like sports. You can talk to like dudes that wouldn't hang out, like dudes that work together can talk about sports. They can talk about weed. People can smoke together at a concert, even if they went with separate people and would never hang out with each other in real life. They could still like pass a joint to each other. And a lot of times when you meet someone and you get high with them, it's kind of like a little bonding experience. People always say like, oh, I would love to get high with that person, or I'd love to smoke with that person, And a lot of times that ends up being true. It's kind of a bonding experience, And unlike drinking, you don't just forget what the fuck happened. So there could be, if you actually like smoked with her and she's a person that enjoys weed the way you do, I guess those things could intersect. Now, as far as your mom, it's a real threat. You got to understand, man, like, especially coming from somebody that hasn't been 16 in a long time. If you're fucking under 18, man, you're not really your own person. Like, your mom and dad own you. Like, they pay for all your shit. There's exceptions, obviously, of people that become on their own earlier, but like, chances are, especially with the way you're describing that you're in high school, you live with your parents, like, they pay for all your bills. They pay for them lights. Like, you don't realize when you're 16, like how good you really have it as far as how much your parents are really hooking you up and providing for your life at that time. So if she wants to send you to military school, she has every goddamn right to, So if you're worried about the military school, sometimes you got to weigh certain things, military school or getting high. Military school or getting high. That being said, most people your age, I think I was one of them too. If you've already gotten caught twice, well, maybe you're just not good. Maybe you got not good at being careful, man. You got to stop getting busted. You got to hide your shit better. You got to go further away from the house when you're doing it. I don't know. You got to be careful, man. But a final note on this is the following. There's the thing about marijuana and really any type of substance, whether it be cigarettes, that's cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, acid, meth, anything. I mean, meth is pretty much it's tougher with meth, but marijuana especially is like, there's people who smoke weed all day, every day, and are the smartest people, the most motivated people, the most ambitious people, the most creative people. And then there's people that smoke weed for a year, and then you talk to them after it, and they're just fucking burnt. They're just what you would call a burnout, and it fucks their life up, straight up. The drugs affect, everybody is built differently. Everybody's brains are different. Everybody's cell makeup is different, and you can snort a line of cocaine and overdose, and then other people can do an 8-ball every day for 20 years, and then they're still just living. You know what I mean? So I can't really tell you what to do with your body, man. You got to make that decision for yourself. And I know that if you're gonna do something, weed is if you're gonna do something that gets you high, weed is probably the safest thing that you could do. So you're good in that regard, but just be careful, I guess, man. I can't make that decision for you, but I hope that helped a little bit. All right, one more. Oh, okay. Sub Wax. This is White Phillip. This one's from White Phillip from Dallas. It's been a while since I hit you, man. I've taken up road cycling and track cycling competitively since the last time we spoke. Wow. Track cycling and road cycling. That's pretty impressive, man. You're probably in good shape. It was nice talking to you. EOM, Dumb, and the artist formerly known as Breezy Lovejoy at Trees. Trees is a venue in Dallas that we had a really fun show at. Also, my mom says she enjoyed the show a lot as well and loves that you and her nephew, EOM, are doing something positive. That's right. White Phillip, I think I've told this story before, but if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, or however you want to go by, I guess I'll just call you White Phillip, because usually when people... If you wanted to be Phil, you would say Phil. Like, my EOM, speaking of EOM, he goes by Daniel. Well, he goes by E. Everybody calls him E, but like when he introduces himself, most people says Daniel. And it's like he don't like when people call him Dan or Danny. But Philip, to me, it just seems like you'd be called Phil. I don't know. But also my mom says she enjoyed the show a lot. But my point was that Phil, I'm gonna start calling you Phil regardless. Philly boy, was listening to Wax and EOM and Wax's podcast before he even knew that EOM is his fucking cousin. They just met at a family. No, he met EOM's dad or mom. I can't remember what the fucking side of his family was, but he met somebody. He ended up finding out at a family reunion that EOM is his cousin. So that's pretty cool. And her nephew EOM are doing something positive. Anyways, my actual question was about We Can't All Be Heroes. Probably one of my favorite cuts by you other than Music and Liquor. But I always wondered if Heroes is inspirational or what. I like it's motivational with undertones of the realism of possibly not achieving your dreams. How would you describe it? What was your intent and inspiration behind writing this song? Also, for a recommendation, if you haven't copped the Roots' new album, and then you shoot your cousin. I have not. I've never even heard that title before. I didn't even know that was out. Holy shit! I'm away. I didn't know about the Roots' new album called And Then You Shoot Your Cousin. I know that Black Thought's been doing mad freestyling on the internet where he's just been crushing it, and he's probably one of the technically the best rappers of all time with the fucking way that he raps. It's fucking amazing. And Merce and Mayday collabo Merce Day. Take a listen to those. Damn, I gotta check out the Roots' new album. Oh man, I feel behind the times. I'm telling you, dude. Black Thought has a freestyle he recently put out on relatively recently put out a couple months ago on Sway, where he just crushes it. If you've heard Tony Touch, he has a song called Thought Process on Tony Touch's Peacemaker 3, The Return of the 50 MCs. And he's just so sick, man. And you gotta listen. Some of you guys out there listen to raps differently. Don't listen to it in like, oh, this is a really complicated. Even though he does say some clever ass shit. Like just listen. Like if you want to know, if people ever tell you like, yeah, you got good bars, you got good metaphors, you got good multi-syllable rhymes, but you just don't have the flow right. Like if you want to hear the prime definition of flow, listen to those things that I just mentioned, and really listen to anything Black Thought's ever done. He has the best flow of all fucking time, in my opinion. Maybe not of all time, but he's definitely, as far as flow and just sounding good on a beat, he's got to be one of the best. What the fuck was We Can't All Be Heroes. Yeah, We Can't All Be Heroes. The song, it's like the chorus is saying, stop fucking with me. Stop judging me. And then it says, I look around and suddenly I realize there's nobody there or whatever. The only person judging me is myself. And the song is about that feeling that you have, that voice inside of your head that tells you that you can be a hero. That when you're a kid and you're inspired. I mentioned in the song that I was inspired by watching Michael Jordan play basketball as a kid. And then, it made me want to play basketball, and I'd be outside playing basketball thinking that I could be Michael Jordan. But then one day you realize that, dude, in this case, I realized I can't be Michael Jordan. How the fuck am I going to be Michael Jordan? I'm not tall enough. I'm not fast enough. I don't have enough athletic ability and talent to be Michael Jordan, And in the second verse, I related it to a guy that, maybe there is a guy that's tall, a guy that's good, a guy that got on the basketball team in high school and crushed it. He got in college and he was pretty good. Maybe there was a chance that one day he could make it into the pros and sort of live out his Jordan-esque dreams, And I kind of understand that for every Michael Jordan, there's thousands of people that don't quite get there, and they still have that dream. And to some people, the dream lasts longer and longer than others. Like for me, the field would be music. And luckily now I kind of realize that I really do have it good, and I am exactly where I want it. But it takes a while sometimes. Like when you have bigger ambitions and dreams than you end up being able to achieve. And sometimes then, I relate it in the third verse to an actress in Hollywood who just gets older and older and older. And, for her, it's tough because as the time goes by, it's hard for an older actress as it's harder for an older musician, older rapper, whoever it may be, to get to the accolades you might have hoped one day that you're going to get to. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's not as bad because especially now that I've been through the ringer of the music industry, I realize when if you would ask me when I first moved to LA what my goal was, I would have told you that my goal was to make a living making music. I got to that point, and then you have to manufacture more ambition. You have to manufacture more goals, because if you want to progress, and like there's people around you that are telling that you have to do bigger and better, and you got to do this and that, and sometimes even in your own mind, you're thinking like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be on MTV, or I always wanted to be in Rolling Stone, or fucking win a Grammy, or whatever these things are. And for everybody that has those dreams, it's only a couple Grammys and all that shit they give out every year. I not to quote Eminem or whatever he said in that one song, you think I give a fuck about a Grammy? At this point in my life, I actually don't even like the Grammys. But I'm lying, dude. If they fucking offer me one, I'd take that shit. But it is some bullshit out of words. But that's a whole other topic. But it's just about the ambition versus reality, and just know it's like mathematics. Really, it's mathematics, but it's also involved. It's like mathematics intertwining with emotion, intertwining with drive and ambition. And I was just feeling it at that time. At that time, if you want to hear the part of the song that kind of relates to how I was feeling, it's the first verse. The second verse relates it to the basketball player guy, and the third verse relates it to the actress in Hollywood who ends up becoming kind of like a homeless chick type of person. And that was the last question from the homie Philzer. What's another? Big P. White Phillip. What else I gotta say? I don't really have much else to say. I guess I've said a lot today. I didn't really talk too much about my personal stuff. I ended up talking about a lot about fucking current events and shit like that, but I guess there's not really too much going on in my life. I am gonna try to go through some changes. I've been drinking like a rager. I've been just a raging alcohol drinker and cigarette smoker, unfortunately, recently, but I'm gonna try to be changing that, since I'm gonna be settling down here on the home front. So prepare for reports on that. I will try to. There's no trying now. I'm home. I'm working. I don't got shit to do. I'm going to fucking keep this podcast going. So make fun of me all you want. I deserve it. I'm so the fucking boy who cried wolf with the podcast. The boy who cried next week is definite with the podcast. But, when I really get into the swing of it, I just enjoy doing it. I'm going to try to get some guests and all that shit too. But, all right, y'all. Be safe out there.